And we're live.
What's that?
We are live.
We're live?
Yes.
All right. We're wrapping up episode 3 right now. Getting closer and closer. Wouldn't you say?
Yes, I think it came together remarkably.
It did. We got it. We've almost got it done.
I think we're learning why a lot of cold case podcasts try to have every single episode done by the time they begin to publish.
Yeah, I think next season we're going to do case from like the 1700s or something. But no, so I guess what this is just essentially, I don't know if it's a wrap up or a look forward or sort of a look behind the scenes. I guess it can be all of that. So episode 2 is done. Faith. Episode 3 will be up Monday at noon. About the same in length, I'd say, about 45 minutes or so.
Yeah, it turned out to be a nice,
healthy
full
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we have those done, which is great. And then we're taking next week off from our other show. Not that everyone watches that who's listening to this. And then we'll hopefully get an episode or 2 done for the case. So I guess this week, I don't know, Steve, where you want to start. Do you want to talk about last week? Do you want to preview this week? Do you want to talk about what's going on behind the scenes? We've got the thing is, even when we're doing like this, so essentially we're just sort of laying out, editing the episode, cutting stuff out. We're always editing, cutting. But while we do this, there's always 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 correspondences in the case of an hour from people in South Carolina, from people in Brockton, who have questions, or we're trying to set up somebody else. So it takes a lot longer. And I find that the days that we carve out 8, 10, 12 hours just to work on it is almost when we do even more of our old investigating for some reason. We think, well, we don't have everything we want to know about.
We need to call so-and-so. We need to call this person.
We need to
Maybe it's somebody we
confirm
haven't
this.
talked with.
Yeah,
Maybe it's somebody we tracked down for the first time. Yeah.
Yeah, this doesn't sound great. This should sound cleaner. Maybe we can get a story from this person about this thing to clarify this thing. And it's sort of then, like, we never just sit here, even today, we don't just sit here and just bang out just record stuff. And it never works that way, which is okay. It kind of keeps us on our toes, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've kind of learned through doing it what's the most effective and efficient way to go from, information that we've gathered to a finished podcast episode. And I thought that this episode had a bigger impact in the community that was kind of like the setting for it than the first episode did, which isn't surprising because it's the events of episode 2 were a little bit more recent, I think. And well, obviously they're more recent,
right.
But also just like the nature of the community in terms of
for episode 3, you're saying?
No. Episode 2
versus 1. Oh,
so
for sure.
I'm saying like the response that we got from people in Walhalla reaching out was bigger than the response that we got from people in Brockton,
including law enforcement officials, for sure. And I think that's right. That's 32 years almost versus 2 years.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a huge difference.
I also think that there's like a cultural difference, and you touched on it in the second episode.
I guess so.
Like the missing girls in Walhalla and Oconee County are more gossiped about, I think, than anything that's going on in Brockton. And that's just a product of the time that's gone by.
Right.
But also, if you look at our, the Reddit thread for the case, if you look at any of the social media, the reaction for episode 2, I think was bigger. I
think that's probably true. I know the numbers were great too, and we're very grateful for that. I think episode 3, we go back to Brockton. We actually are in South Carolina for a little bit. And then we go back to Brockton. But then I think episode 4, not to jump too far ahead, is really going to be super South Carolina. And we're going to dig in, I think, even more than any episode yet in terms of the culture of a place, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's going to look like. But episode 3 is in Brockton and focuses on as Steve is looking right now, I assume it corresponds with somebody involved with the case, right?
Yes.
Yes.
I am.
Yeah. This is our life. And this is sort of, it never ends. And Steve, it's funny. Steve's working so hard editing now that he didn't even produce our regular show today, because it's just endless, and it feels like it feels like it inhales in your entire existence all the time, which is okay. I mean,
there are a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, and I think we knew that, but I also think we didn't know to the extent that what
we were talking about earlier. A correspondent from somebody I hadn't heard from in a long time would like to talk with us, so we should probably talk with him.
Give me a hint.
Our gas station guide.
Oh,
my
really?
Guy.
Not your buddy.
he's my guy.
We heard from him in episode 2.
Yes, we did.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, okay. Okay. Well, when we're done with this, we'll talk to him.
Yes.
Great. That'll be I'm sure that'll be productive. Yeah, and it's, I've seen some light. It's mostly been favorable, and there have been people who've criticized, and that's totally fine. But I've seen some people who are also trying to play PI, Inspector Gadget, as some have said. And like, you do have to understand when you ask questions like, why haven't you talked about this? Or why are you painting this person? Why aren't you mentioning the other suspects? It is 8 episodes. Like, we can't, it's a story. It's a narrative. It's also we're telling a story.
I think
so
people just don't.
I'm sorry, Steve. But you have to understand, we're not going to tell you everything in episode 1 and 2. That makes no sense.
Yeah, I think people just need to understand that we have much more information than we've published to date, or that we're probably ever going to be able to publish.
Well, we're not going to unless we're comfortable with something, we're not going to run with it.
And that's not to say, don't send us stuff. If you think something could be relevant, you can send it to us, thecase@barstoolsports.com, and we're reviewing everything that comes in on that email.
And direct messages account. On the @thecase.
Yes. DMs are open on Twitter.
The Case Podcast.
At the Case Podcast on Instagram and Twitter.
Twitter, yeah. So I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying that we don't want to discourage people from sending us stuff, but you should know that we've reviewed social media. We've seen a lot of this.
We know everything. Yeah. Like, I'm not saying this to be an asshole, but like, I'm not saying we know everything. You can always surprise us when someone's like, "Oh, why haven't you talked to this? Why haven't you mentioned this or this?" The chances are very, very, very high that we've seen it.
Correct.
Not necessarily so, but almost certainly so. I mean, Steve has done so much of the editing and has also done some legwork, but I think he would say that I've probably done more of that world.
Oh, the social media stuff.
Yeah, totally. I've dove into it, but Steve has too. But I'm just saying because he's so busy producing it, and that. So I mean, we don't miss a lot, but we're always open to like Steve said, send it to us. I mean, we're open to that. What are you looking at?
So there's a question in the chat. Do you think over the course of the 8 episodes you will have to retract or amend an interview?
I don't think we'll have to retract one. I don't think we'll have to amend one. I think we stand. No, everything.
I think that there could be new information that comes in that changes, that gives us a different perspective.
Absolutely.
About something.
Yeah,
for sure.
I think that's almost certainly going to happen. I hope that happens, and I do think that you have to understand when we're playing sound of somebody. Sometimes I believe them, but sometimes we're playing it because we don't believe them. Like, and you'll see, I think, a lot of that in episode 3 with quotes and stuff like that. But we don't, it's sort of like those tweets. Tweets aren't endorsements. Not necessarily mean that we think this is the case, but these are what people are saying about this. And I think that's worth playing and reacting to. But retracting an interview, I would say definitely not. I mean, if we're proven wrong, then we're going to come back and do an episode where we say, this person said this. We found that they were full of shit because this person said this.
Yeah, but I don't think it's something where we would ever need to change an existing audio file.
No,
like something that's already been published.
No, I hope not.
Ziggy wants to know, would you consider episode 3 a one-off, or is it still heavily tied to Jennifer? It's an interesting question.
A one-off? Episode 3?
Yeah.
No, it's certainly tied. No, it's not like a one-off.
I think it revolves around Jennifer and some of the characters.
It's for sure a Jennifer. It's for sure a Brockton episode, and I think part of it's because it's more recent. But I think there are more characters. And there are more missing people and death. Walhalla is probably a more interesting setting than Brockton, or at least a richer, plentiful. You know what I mean? There's just more stuff there.
There's a lot more going on, but that's also a function of the time that's passed. I'm sure. Brockton in 1989 had lots of gossip and lots of drama and other crimes going on that were related to all of this. Right. But it's just not something that is as immediate for us because it happened so long ago, and we haven't. Right. We spent more time in Walhalla than we have in Brockton.
Oh, for sure. There's no doubt about that. We spent more time in Walhalla than anywhere.
Clacky wants to know: are there no phone records from Rice's Market from the night Jennifer disappeared?
Yeah.
I mean, look, these are pay phones, you know. So if that record exists, then Ma Bell or AT&T has it, and
good luck.
Yeah, and that'd be very hard to get. And I think that there's a misconception about what we can have access to for records. If it's a government entity, then you can submit a public records request and get that. So if it's a criminal record, if it's an email to a police department, if it's records from a Massachusetts state police investigation, you can request those records, and sometimes you'll get them. But you can't just ask private entities for their information. They're not going to be cooperative with you.
Right, and I do think that when it comes to to stuff like that also is not. I think some people think, well, you make a request and you get an answer like this. You get stiffed. They kind of move you along, and it takes forever. We're seeing this with a bunch of requests that we have in right now. It just takes a long time, and it's not like we can plan it out because we learn things even say today, or we're going to learn something tomorrow, and then we might not get it. By the time we get it, the 8 episodes are probably going to be done.
Yeah, I would think so. We'll probably have to publish like an epilogue at some point when we actually get all the records.
No shit.
Somebody wants to know, why is the Jennifer Fay case still considered ongoing?
Well, they say it's an
rather.
active investigation. They say that. They haven't really given us a specific reason why.
They haven't. They've not given us. I think they've said that new information came in. They got new information, and that's what changed it.
And they were close to bringing it to a grand jury. Remember, they were saying maybe a year or two ago.
Yeah.
But that fell through. But they consider it an open investigation still to this day. And there are detectives working on the case. Do I think it's their top priority in the Brockton Police Department? I certainly do not. But I think the detective we talked to about it, the active one, is still pursuing leads and still keeping an eye on potential suspects.
And I think that in some ways it would be helpful for us if it was a closed case and therefore we could get those public records. For sure. But I don't think that we would. I don't think that we would learn a whole lot more than we already have. Like we'd learn about different searches that they've done over the years in areas around Brockton. Maybe we could review any kind of tips or information that came into them. But I think our general understanding of the night Jennifer went missing, I don't think would change greatly if we had access to those records.
No, I think where the people who help us the most, and I suppose I understand their reticence, is the private investigative team that's been on the case for 14 or 15 years.
Yeah.
But they've got their own thing going on. It's not their job to help us out. And they've been very nice and cooperative, but I think if they open the books to us, I understand, I suppose, where they're coming from, but I think they're sort of overwhelmed. I know people in Brockton are, I know people in South Carolina are. I think they're overwhelmed at the size of the attention being paid to this now.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't think it's that they want credit. I really don't. But I think their company line is if they tell us a lot of stuff, it's going to hinder their investigation.
Correct.
And I suppose I understand that. But there are times where I say, boy, I mean, if you give us this piece of information, it's going to bring a lot of spotlight and a lot of attention to this. And I feel like that can only help. But maybe I'm wrong. And maybe they know better than I do.
I've kind of felt all along like this is the last best chance to find out what happened to Jennifer.
Well, I don't know,
I don't think that they share that sentiment because, I mean, not a lot is...
I don't know the last, but I think it's certainly been the best to this, in terms of attention. Doesn't mean we're doing the best job, but it's the most attention they're going to get.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess I don't see how them not providing us with some of the pieces of information that we've been looking for is going to actually matter for their investigation. But then again, I'm not, doing the investigating for them. So maybe they've got some information that is critically important. Maybe they've got some activities planned, some interviews. I'm not sure.
Well, I see this question. It's actually a pretty good one. Any thought to putting full interviews on the website after each episode they were played on? That was kind of my dream at the beginning. But where it gets tricky with that is two things. Number one, it actually might give away stuff in future episodes. And number two, might, again, we almost sound like the PIs here, might compromise our work talking to other people as the series goes on. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think when the series is done, we're going to put a shitload of stuff on
there'll be a bunch of stuff at thecasepodcast.com. But another thing is that it's very time consuming to put that stuff up because it's not necessarily like you have to edit it as much as you would an episode, but there are many, many times where someone says in an interview, well, I don't want this going on the podcast. Don't put this up on the podcast. So we have to review everything before we put it up there just to make sure that we haven't violated a promise that we made to somebody.
Of course, this live stream and the case is being sponsored by Taser. Taser Pulse Plus is a non-lethal self-protection device. Here it is, Steve. It's small and lightweight enough. Would you say it's definitely true to carry with you in your glove compartment or purse?
Absolutely.
Powerful enough to incapacitate an attacker. Guns carry unnecessary risk for you and those around you. And even pepper spray can harm you as much as an attacker. And it's often ineffective. Taser's Pulse Plus is safer and easy to use. The Taser Pulse Plus comes loaded with features like laser-assisted targeting, emergency dispatch, which will send response teams to your GPS location upon firing. Protect yourself and your family with Taser's Pulse Plus self-defense product. Look, if you've listened to the case and you have a daughter or a girlfriend or a wife or a mother or just anybody in your life, and not just women, but if you want to protect yourself, this is the way to do it. Taser Pulse Plus is available without a permit in most U.S. states. Get the Taser Pulse Plus at taser.com. Promo code is the case. So get moving on that. Case of fans?
Fans of the case.
Well, we haven't got one yet, huh?
No, we haven't.
Case closed? No? Casing?
Casers.
Casers?
Yeah. All the casers need tasers.
Doesn't rhyme.
I wasn't trying to make it
I think
rhyme.
you might have been. TASER.com, promo code the case. 15% off right now at taser.com, promo code the case. Promo code the case.
Do you want to answer a few more questions coming on the chat line?
Sure, yeah.
Let's see.
We'll open the phones up. We trusted these idiots, but
okay.
No.
Has law enforcement, either in Brockton or Walhalla, asked you to release information or told you not to release information?
B, no. A, we've been really cooperative, as we've said all along. I think we just we have a better relationship with the people in Walhalla.
Yeah, for sure.
The
people in Oconee County.
Oconee County, yeah, right. The department down there.
And we have been asked not to release information.
What? I mean, not specific. Give me a hint.
Sources and methods.
Sources.
There's information that we have, and we know how a certain law enforcement agency obtained it.
Yeah,
They've asked us not to share with that
Yes.
with the audience how they obtained that information.
Right, and I think you say, well, okay, this is kind of how it works, and it's interesting because you kind of say to them, well, okay, can we ask you this question? And they're like, well, we can't answer. We can't answer yes to that, and we sort of will say, well, okay, you can't say yes, but can you sort of,
Can you wink?
Can you send us in a different direction? If we're wrong, can you tell us we're wrong?
Yeah, can you tell us?
And if we're right, can you just basically say, hey, you guys are doing a really good job on this?
Yeah,
that kind of thing. And I totally get that. And you're right. I mean, they are working on this case. Like I totally get. We've talked to the families, and there are multiple missing women in Oconee County, which not really spent much time on yet in the series. We will. It's not just Faith Roach. There's Laura Anders. There's Tammy Stubblefield. I mean, there are missing women in Oconee County. We've talked to their families as well. When you talk to those families, we sat with Tammy Stubblefield's family inside a home in the kitchen, and it's just heartbreaking. And we spoke to Laura Anders' family at an Arby's, I believe, right?
It was at that Arby's.
My first ever Arby's appearance. And this family is devastated, and they're frustrated because they say, law enforcement's doing nothing. And as somebody, like, I totally get where they're coming from because they want people working on it all the time. And then you talk to law enforcement officials and say, well, hold on, we are doing this.
Yeah, we've canvassed this neighborhood. We've interviewed all of these people. They just aren't necessarily sharing an open line with the families. So
right.
And they're frustrated with the perception that they're not doing their jobs.
Right. But it's also, we can't call them up and tell them everything because if we tell them everything, and this is the way it works down there, and somewhat in Brockton as well, they're going to tell somebody else who tells somebody else who then tells the suspect because they're all intertwined down there.
Yeah, and the other thing is you need to be able to, like, if we get a piece of information and we want to try and verify that with 3 or 4 different sources, you can't let everyone know what's going on with your investigation because then you can't be sure if you're getting independent confirmation because maybe that person just heard it from another person. So you ended up being the source of that information. You know what I'm saying?
What did we get from Arby's?
Sweet tea.
Oh, I didn't have that. You got it, right?
No, we didn't eat.
No, we didn't eat. Yes, no, that's exactly right. And it's, like I said, I completely sympathize with the family's frustration because I'd be insane over it. But I do get it, but I also think, there is sort of this idea that when they see somebody who does drugs, that there's sort of this, well, not that we don't care about their lives, but this could be anything.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and when it's somebody that law enforcement knows really well because they've had to arrest them before. They've had to put them in protective custody before, and
it's frustrating. Yeah. Anything else? Anything else you want to talk about here in the series itself?
I don't think so. Just go to thecasepodcast.com. That's where we're going to be, releasing some pictures, some video. Look up the Reddit thread. It's the subreddit is r/thecasepod, and it's the Case Podcast on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, and again, subscribe to it and leave a 5-star review. That's important. I don't know why, but please do that. Let's get those reviews up. It seems like it's great so far. Again, the feedback's unbelievable. The numbers are unbelievable. We've got 6 episodes left at least. Who knows what happens as the series goes on. And you've seen this week what can happen when it's good. Again, it's not because of me or Steve, but when a big podcast shines attention on a story. Mm-hmm. And that was kind of our goal from the start. We're not pretending that we're going to solve anything. But when increased attention is brought on something, people start working maybe more than they did before, and then things might happen. That's all. And we've seen it to some extent already with us. But I hope that happens. But I hope it's done properly and right. And I hope they don't rush to judgment. And we're not trying to as well. And like I said, there are other suspects for sure in South Carolina. We're going to focus on them as well as the series goes on. But episode 3 is back in Brockton. Episode 4 is back in South Carolina. And then episode 5, a lot of that will take place in upstate New York, actually, as a matter of fact, we believe, right? In the small town of Walton, New York, where we've been.
Yes, we have.
We have been all over the place. Trip. That's the longest we haven't been in Walhalla in forever.
I know. Are you itching to go back?
I missed the 4 paws.
For some reason, I don't think there'd be a good welcome for you.
From some. I will say, like, you're right. Like, Jen's family are awesome and I think grateful, and we're grateful. They've been so helpful. It's a lot of friends down there, but like the scene in South Carolina is just crazy reaction to this thing. Like it is just, as people have said, the trees have been shaking, and the people, I get reaction from people there who have information. Some of it's bullshit, some of it's not. And we do the best we can, because sometimes it's true. You'll talk to somebody you think is a fucking lunatic for 80 minutes. Maybe right around finally at 80 minutes, when you're about to say, I can't do this anymore, they'll say something. And you'll think, holy shit, that actually makes sense. Yeah. Fuck, like we've got something here. And then you're off to the races again. So again, subscribe, leave a 5-star review, tell people about it. I know I've heard a million people say, geez, my wife's listening to this, or my girlfriend's listening to this, or my sister. So it's nice to have, our other show is fucking all guys. So it's nice to have a bunch of people outside the bar still listening to it too.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
if you have any information, you can send it to us. thecase@barstoolsports.com.
thecase@barstoolsports.com. The Twitter handle is @thecasepodcast. I'll try and be more active there as well. I don't think I have any media appearances coming up, right?
I don't think so. No.
Unbelievable. Is that one gone on yet? Has that been on TV yet?
I'm not sure.
Huh. That's weird. I would have seen that, right? Somebody would have said that.
Yeah.
All right.
Has the Boston Globe not covered it?
I haven't seen that yet. No, I'm sure they will eventually. Don't you think?
I think they'll have to.
No question. So thanks to everyone, and we'll be back. I'm sure doing this next week. Episode 3 will, right?
Yep. Episode 3 comes.
You gave me a weird look.
No. Episode 3 comes Monday at noon.
Episode 3 Monday at noon. You want to give the title away, Steve, yet or no?
Yeah.
The title is Diana. Episode 3, Diana, will be up Monday at noon. We'll see you then. Thanks so much.